why Dr. Barrister ASONG Michael has decided to run for the top job of Cameroon. He declared his intention to run for the presidency of this republic some months back as an independent candidate. We had him already on this platform and thought that he should be brought back to talk to Cameroonians what he has in store for them, because so many proposals have come up from him, making rounds on social media. So many persons are asking why he intends to take some of the decisions he is announcing that he's going to take once he becomes president of the republic. He hopes that by October, when elections are called, he's going to be chosen by you people watching tonight as the president of the republic. We are glad to have you on Prime Hour once again, Dr. Barrister Michael ASONG.
Good evening, Mr. Kum. Once more, it's a privilege for me to be on your program. I'd like to seize this opportunity to salute my fellow esteemed Cameroonians, both here in Cameroon and the diaspora. And I also want to seize the opportunity to express my deepest sympathy to the soldiers who lost their lives in the far north region, and also my condolences to their different families.
We want to thank you two for accepting our invitation to be part of tonight's edition of the program. Since your declaration to run for the top job in Cameroon, you have been appreciated. You also have been lambasted by so many persons. Are you now also feeling what a leader feels when he takes up the position of the president of a republic?
Yeah, of course. You know, Cameroonians are very intelligent, and that's one thing I really appreciate with my fellow Cameroonian citizens, is that they are people who cannot easily be tricked. Anything you propose for change in Cameroon will certainly be well scrutinized by Cameroonians. And from all the different remarks I have received, I always view them positively, because I strongly believe that for us to rebuild our nation, then we need what I call positive criticism. And it is only in that manner that we can disagree to agree at the end of the day to build a better Cameroon.
You have been attacked severally, abused, criticized, even when you've never taken office for all these months. But you are proving not to be bothered by all of these scathing attacks on your programs and your personality. Are you not to some extent disappointed that you are coming like a Jesus Christ to provide solutions to the problems that Cameroonians are going through, yet they seemingly are not understanding that message? They don't see the Savior in you, and one is tempted to ask, if they don't believe in someone who is as young as you, where are we going to?
Well, I still look at it in a very positive mindset, in the positive way, because you know, you can only be criticized if there is something valuable in you. As I earlier on said, Cameroonians are a set of very intelligent people, and you know, if they find interest in what you're saying, then they are going to, in one way or the other, criticize it. So the mere fact that they have put in their attention to the things I have been saying, things which they are not doing for other candidates, then for me it's something very positive. It means that they are seeing something in me, they are seeing a leader in me. Might be the proposals I am giving are not proposals which the love or they think might be the best solutions to the problems we have, but nevertheless due to the fact that they have been responding massively on social media, for me it's a sign that in a way there is a consideration for my candidacy declaration, and they believe that I can make a good leader if I take into their advice in one way or the other. And we must know that in Cameroon today, we have spent over 43 years in a leadership and regime which I would actually categorize as a disaster. And you know, being 43 years in such a regime where healthcare is a problem, where education is a problem, where corruption, injustice reigns, where we have difficulties and we lack a lot of infrastructures. Like today I had to be blocking traffic just because we lack infrastructure, very poor roads. And you have an individual who is coming with a mindset of change. You know, people have been so used to hardship that they are looking for a way to always take the best decision and to choose the right person, because they don't want to take any risk. And of course, that's where I understand my fellow Cameroonian citizens, because being a very young man at 36 years old and standing up to hold the highest position in the republic, then of course I need to be scrutinized. And that's why I consider all the criticisms not as negative criticisms, but as positive criticisms, as I always publish on my post. So for me, it's good. I find it very good. People might think I don't consider what they take, but of course I read everybody. When you go to my Facebook page, you realize that there are people who I comment, I respond, I give my own opinion, and we actually debate. And I think that leadership is about that. Leadership is about communicating. You know, we have a president today who has spoke only for about 126 times since he was made president. That is 3 times every year. On the 10th of February each year, that's the speech to the youths. On the 31st of December, where he's giving his new year wishes, and maybe once within the year. So and that is why we have all the issues we have today, because we have a president who is actually cut off away from the reality which the society lives. And that's something I want to change by communicating with my people, communicating with every citizen, and knowing fully well that each and everyone has a role to play, a type of governance which is participative, for the people and by the people.
Okay. But the president has representatives across the country. He has divisional officers who represent him at the subdivisional level. He has senior divisional officers and governors. He has ministers. But I want to ask you this question: what is fundamentally wrong with Cameroon?
Well, I would like to say that what is fundamentally wrong with Cameroon, it's the system which has been put in place.
Okay.
Now, when I talk about the system, you're going to realize that we were once colonized by the French and the British. And you know, in the French regions of Cameroon was being practiced assimilation, and in the English regions of Cameroon was being practiced what we call indirect rule. But later on, at the end of the day, through some sort of manipulation, the two brothers were forced to come together to form one country, which is the Cameroon we have today. But now the colonial master did his best to eliminate all those figures who could stand for our true independence. And that's why the slogan for my vision is an independent, developed and prosperous Cameroon, because actually we have never been independent. You realize that the 2 presidents which we have had since the existence of the reunited Cameroon, that's from the time where we became a Federal Republic of Cameroon, that's on the 1st of October 1961, Amadou Ahidjo was put in place by the French colonial master. He was the choice of the colonial master.
Those are speculations.
No, they're not speculations. The facts were there, because Umnyobe was eliminated, and there were many other politicians who were crushed down, and those were those who sought true independence and fought for our true independence in Cameroon. So the problem of Cameroon is that we still have this colonial grip upon us. And that is why when the colonial master gave the impression that they are giving us, in quotes, an independence, they made sure that they left in place a capitalist system. A capitalist system which could permit them to secure their interests and all the properties which they had acquired. And that's why we have colonial agreements where the colonial master has favors in terms of certain contracts related to our natural resources. That is why they have preferences in terms of certain markets which we can propose to the world. That is why today we still use a colonial currency which has kept us bondage, because our reserves are held by the French Central Bank. That is why today we still have our military men being trained by the colonial master, the French. That is why today, for some security issues, we saw a French general come a few weeks ago to Cameroon. So when we look at all these different facts and things happening in our society today, we can say 100% sure that we are not independent according to the dispositions of the UN Charter of 1945, which warrants that every state is sovereign, every state is independent and autonomous. But in Cameroon today, that is not what we have. And that is why today, what I am proposing to the people of Cameroon, such a great and glorious people, is that we must achieve our true independence for sustainable development.
So that's the problem with
that is the main thing. As when that is resolved,
you are coming to the studio, and you said you were caught in traffic. We started 20 minutes late because of traffic, and the city is also not too clean when you go through Douala. Are you saying that it is the colonial masters who are asking mayors, who are asking those who are supposed to fix our roads not to do the job?
Well, it's a manipulation.
Okay. It's
a manipulation. Who is in charge of cleaning our cities? Hisakam. That's a French company. So you see that everything is in one way or the other intertwined. They are all linked. Because I can assure you that if we had the true leaders who fought for our independence ruling us, today things would have been different. Look at the roads we have today. Most of them were given to French companies. After a year or two, they are all bad. So these are the things we are talking about. Different projects not being executed correctly. And that's because we have foreigners executing the things we are supposed to do. So how can I expect you to clean my house better than I do?
Yeah, but who gave these contracts? And we also have Cameroonian companies, Cameroonian contractors who take contracts and do not execute them, or poorly executed.
It's the system. It's the system.
Yeah, the system manned by Cameroonians.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say, that the good Cameroonians have been eliminated. That's why today one of the other issues which goes with that major problem is lack of meritocracy. Now the question is, who are those whom contracts are being attributed to? Do they have the right qualities, competencies, experience to carry out the job appropriately? And we all know that that's a problem in Cameroon today, as we see it in every sector and in every service, where we see the same people from the same tribes, from the same family, ruling and carrying out activities for the benefit of the nation. Now, they know that they have the power. They know that nobody will question them if they do things wrongly. And that's why they are doing those things. And those things were being inherited from our colonial master.
Yeah, so you expected the Umnyobes and all of these guys to be ruling Cameroon till now?
Of course, they are the ones who were supposed to rule Cameroon.
By now?
Of course, certainly they would have left, because I strongly believe that if somebody like Umnyobe, when we read, I think there is a prophecy where he was discussing with a bishop, Magwa Dongmo, where he was some sort of explaining or talking about future things to happen, and he gave reasons why he did not accept to be the first president of Cameroon, the first president of French Cameroon, please, because at the time the both Cameroons were not yet united. And he said that the conditions which were given to him was that he was supposed to work in favor of the colonial master to the detriment of others, while giving more favors to the people of his tribe. And he said no, that as a patriotic Cameroonian citizen, he will not accept to sign any colonial agreement that will not safeguard the interests of each and every Cameroonian.
No,
and that's why he was eliminated.
I follow you a lot on your social media handle. I've asked fundamentally what the problem is, and you're telling me about the colonial masters.
Yeah.
If the colonial masters had a problem, we are 60 years after independence.
Yeah.
We should have understood that, okay, the problem was at the level of the colonial masters. We are independent. We have seen Singapore developed. We have seen so many countries develop. Even in Africa, we've seen so many. How do we still now blame the colonial masters when they left a long time ago? And mind you, the French president was in Cameroon, and while addressing the world alongside the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Paul Biya, he made it very clear that the business ties with Cameroon had fallen drastically from 60 to 14%, which means that, and the President of the Republic himself has said, the Cameroon, ce n'est pas la chasse gardée de quelqu'un. He's opening up to the Chinese, to the East. Almost everybody is in Cameroon today.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point you're making. But what I'm trying to say is that the colonial master has never left us alone. They have, in one way or the other, put in place mechanisms to keep us under bondage. For example, if you want your son to be independent, then you give him all the necessary amenities to be independent. Now, you cannot say Cameroon is independent today when we are still using a colonial currency, which is the franc CFA. It's still a colonial currency, and our reserves are at the French bank over 65%. Now, that's a lot of money which we could use to do other things. Now, you know, on the political scene, there are a lot of manipulations, and you know what politicians say on media to the public is different from what happens on the ground.
Are you manipulating?
And we must remember.
Are you a politician?
Yes, I've decided to do.
Are you manipulating those watching you now?
No, I'm not manipulating anybody. If I wanted to manipulate them, I would have done so.
Okay.
But I've chosen my own way of doing politics. I've decided to do politics in a truthful way, and that's why I can stand up and tell Cameroonians that alcohol is bad and I'll stop it. Because a reasonable politician will say these people love alcohol so much. If you tell them to stop alcohol or that you're going to ban alcohol, it means that you are actually putting a bullet on your foot. You see, but I am here to speak the truth, and I strongly believe that if we want to build a new Cameroon, then we must do it in truth. Now, you realize that Paul Biya was being selected by France. Now, we must always understand that when we are all getting...
But we don't have a document that tells us officially
no,
that Paul Biya was selected by France.
The truth is...
We know that constitutionally, the president, Amadou Ahidjo, resigned, and constitutionally was supposed to be replaced by the prime minister. So...
No, the question is, how did President Amadou Ahidjo get to power? Was it legitimate? That means, did he merit being there? Remember, they crushed the main politicians that fought for independence. Now, it's a whole, what I'm trying to help everyone understand is that it's a continuation of a system that has been put in place. Now, the question is, why the choice of Paul Biya.
Doctor,
why should we put in place a mechanism that will favor some? Because remember, they are now thinking of putting in place the post of a vice president, which is similar to what happened at the time between Ahijo and President Biya as Prime Minister.
Those are speculations. Did President Amadou Ahijo work in the interest of Cameroon or not? Did he not develop this country?
Well, developing the country is not enough. It's not enough, because I strongly believe that for us to talk about development, we are talking about sustainable development. And that's why in my vision, I am looking at Cameroon for the next 200 years. So if you develop Cameroon just in the period of 10 years, and after somebody comes and crushes it, then you have done nothing. So every leader should sit down and plan Cameroon for at least 200 years. And that's what we see with European countries, where their infrastructure today are still being used. Infrastructures that were built 300, 200 years ago are still being used today.
Okay, that's still intact. Lukong Enes is watching from Betoa. Good evening to you. Andy Manyaka, my brother and friend, the great musician who is watching us from Boya. Good evening, Andy Manyaka. Glad to note that you're watching us. But there are some decisions that you announced on your platform which attracted lots of attacks on your person. And we ask ourselves again what Cameroonians actually want. Good evening, Mr. Kum Leonard. I'm Noko Elvis, watching the program in Bangem, Kupe Mwanenguba Division, and I'm enjoying the program. Courage to Dr. Barrister ASONG. Michael, you announced that are you going to completely ban alcohol, or you're going to moderate and control it?
Well, my stand is banning alcohol completely, and I'll give my reasons. First of all, from a health point of view, there has been a study that was being conducted in Britain. It took over 5-7 years to conduct that study, and finally the results were being published in 2023. So it revealed that there is no volume of alcohol that is beneficial to the body. Now remember, I'm a medical doctor, and for over some time we have been advising patients to take a glass of wine after meals. But now with this study, it proved that that particular advice which we're giving to patients is completely wrong, because there is no volume of alcohol that is beneficial to the body, as it affects blood vessels, it affects nerves and all the like. So we are going to realize that from that health point of view, alcohol is a risk factor for so many diseases, particularly cancers. We also have liver failures, hypertension, diabetes, and several other chronic diseases. So, taking into consideration that I want to put in place a communist healthcare which will be free, and knowing fully well that this free healthcare, it will be completely financed by the government, what I need to do as a medical doctor is to prevent people from getting ill. Now, if I want to prevent people from getting ill, I have to cut off all the risk factors that will push people into contracting one sickness, one illness, or the other. And that's the reason why things like alcohol, smoking, drugs, they'll all be banned. And now other things will be encouraged, like more sports activities, which I'll make sure that I'll build enough eco spaces with gyms so that people can do more sports and permit them to be healthier. So that's just from a health point of view. Now when we go to a social point of view, we are going to realize that due to the fact that Cameroonians drink a lot of alcohol, so many of them are not productive, because alcohol has rendered so many useless. Others will go back home and beat their wives and beat their children. Others are going to use money to spend on alcohol instead of paying the school fees of their children or even providing for their families. Now that pushes us to the third point, which is an economic point. Now it is worth noting that statistics showed that we drank 1.2 billion liters of beer last year just from Boisson du Cameroon. We actually consume 1.2 billion liters of alcohol. Now, if we consider that a liter of beer, we consider that a liter of beer costs about 750 francs. It means that we spend about 800 billion francs CFA just on beer from Boisson du Cameroon. Now, I've not talked about Guinness, I've not talked about Insembec, I've not talked about wine, I've not talked about whiskey, I've not talked about champagne. Now, if we want to put all of those together, it means that we spend about 2,000 billion francs CFA just on alcohol. So 2,000 billion francs CFA, that is approximately about 25% to 30% of our budget, our national budget, which is about 7,300 billion francs CFA. That should make us realize how much we spend on alcohol. And I think that I even had a comment on my Facebook page where there was this young guy who was telling me that thank you very much, Mr. President. If you succeed in banning alcohol, then I will be able to save at least 20,000 every week. So these are the reasons actually that pushed me to say that no, alcohol is not something good. And you know, the system today is using alcohol, is weaponizing alcohol, so that the more Cameroonians drink, they will not be conscious of their responsibilities towards the state, and for them to realize that change is something which needs to automatically come.
Do you understand why you have been heavily attacked for making such a proposal?
Yeah, I understand, and the reasons are several. The first thing is that Cameroonians, like for example, many on my page said, alcohol is the only thing we have left in this country. Alcohol is the only thing that gives us joy. So imagine how low Cameroonians have reached to declare publicly that alcohol is what keeps them happy. Alcohol is what keeps them going. And that also makes me to understand, as a medical doctor, that their love for alcohol is not only about something which they just really like, but there is also addiction which is being associated to it, knowing fully well that alcohol in itself is a drug. So that goes to say that we as Cameroonians, as I earlier on stated, there are issues, a lot of issues related with alcohol that actually prevents us from making a bold step into our sustainable development. And I think that we are that generation that must be able to say no. We have to put an end. We have to make sure that we safeguard the interest and the future of Cameroonians that will come, future generations of Cameroonians, and we have to take those decisions now to work hard and to make sure that we achieve what is necessary for sustainable development.
Okay. Also, you have talked about the need for control. I don't know whether it's control or complete banning of this sports channel or the viewing of
international
foreign matches in Cameroon. How does that help develop Cameroon and also help Cameroonians focus on what are their responsibilities?
Now, the first thing I would like to say is that sports is one of the major sectors of development. So amongst the others, we have the economy, we have education, we have health, we have the environment, we have infrastructure and social culture. Sports is vital, and we have seen the impact of sports globally when we look at what the FIFA as an organization makes, when we look at what other countries which invested into sports are making today in terms of revenue, either through entertainment, either through publicity, either through other economic activities that are related to sports, we are going to realize that there is a lot of money being made in sports, and particularly football. So it's sad, it's very, very sad to notice that Cameroonians don't even know the various clubs, first division clubs of their country. but they are supporting massively foreign clubs, be it in France, be it in Spain, be it in Italy, or even England. And that just goes to show us that we are still very, very dependent on our colonial master, because that is the type of system which they put in place to make us believe that the only thing that is good is what comes from them, and that anything that is in our own society is not good. Now, my goal is that we need to promote, or we need to boost our sport sector. Now, we have had players complaining of very poor salaries, because we must know that the sector of sports also employs people. It employs athletes who are playing their own role, and they too make use of that sector as a source of living. Now, the only way for us to grow our sports sector is to consume our sports services. Now, when we look at how the way we invest on other sports activities going on elsewhere, we'll realize that if we invest that in Cameroon, then we are going to increase the revenue in the sports sector. By increasing the revenue in the sports sector, we are going to create more jobs, because we'll have more entertainment institutions, we'll have more journalists that will play that role, we'll have more medical doctors that will be there, we'll have accountants who employ so many other Cameroonians, and it will be able to permit us to raise enough revenue to pay the different principal actors of this sector, and it will also generate money for us. So we must put in our mind that we must consume what is made in Cameroon, because that's the only way we can easily move forward. We are going to come
to that. Muno Genesis says, I love your ideology, sir. President, okay. Now we'll say Joe is watching us. Good evening to you. George Bisson, you are watching us from Tinto Opa Bayan Sub Division. Courage to you, Mr. Kum, and the doctor in the house. Okay, you are concerned for the focus or addiction of Cameroonians towards foreign sporting activities. Is it not also because of the heavy betting tendencies of young Cameroonians who spend almost all of the time wanting to know which club has won so that they can make some money?
Well, I don't think it was not focused on that. Okay. Even though betting is something I've said I'm going to ban, because it's also one of those activities that are destroying our youths today, who want to make, who think that life is easy and want to make it quick by thinking that by betting they will be able to make huge sums of money. But what I want to remind our youths today is that it's hard work that will bring you food on your table, and that will make you have a constant revenue, because even if you win a betting or a match, you bet and you win today, you're not sure of tomorrow. I know that there are other issues that are associated to it, and that's why the banning of all these things must also be reciprocated by the opportunities which I'm going to create, because so many people will get engaged into betting and at the end of the day get addicted because they don't have jobs. They don't have a source of revenue. So those are things which I'm going to create jobs for youths, create jobs for every single Cameroonian, to permit each and every Cameroonian to have something to do and to be able to generate something for his or her family.
So many Cameroonians think that you are too young for this position. How are you going to succeed to make them understand that elsewhere we have had people run countries younger than yourself?
Well, the first thing I would like to say is that by virtue of our constitution of 1972 and its amendments of 1996 and 2008, it simply provides that when you have gotten to the age of 35, you can stand as a candidate or stand for the post of President of the Republic. And it simply goes to show the visionary founding fathers which we had, because they knew that at least at the age of 35 you are no more considered a youth, because youth, being a youth, is from 0 to 35 years, according to international conventions, and from 35 you are able, at least you have the minimum to be able to rule a country. And I would like to give several examples. For example, President Ayijo became the first president of French Cameroon at 36 years old, and became the first president of the Federal Republic of Cameroon at 38 years old. Today we have an example of, we have Ibrahim Traoré, who, even though took power illegitimately, but today he's doing extraordinary things in Burkina Faso, and he's my age mate. I think he's 38 years old actually, and he took power when he was 34, 35. So that just goes to say that it's not about age. I think leadership is not about age. There are certain characteristics, there are certain values which a leader is supposed to have, and I believe that when you have those values, then certainly you will be able to make it and rule a nation appropriately. And I put them into three things. The first thing is love for your nation. You must love your nation. The second thing is you must be ready to serve your people at all costs, and the third thing is the capacity to listen and communicate. And those are the things I practice, and I strongly believe that building Cameroon is not an issue of a person, because that's what most Cameroonians think. They think that it's the president of the republic that is going to change Cameroon. But what I will remind each and every Cameroonian is that according to Article 2 of our Constitution, sovereignty belongs to the people. It is just exercised by the president of the republic. So now that therefore means that I am encouraging a different type of governance today, a governance by the people and for the people. So it must be participative. It's not about me going and being president alone, but it's about all of us going there. And that is why I sloganed my my campaign team all towards A2D, because I strongly believe that it's not about me alone, but it's about each and every Cameroonian, who is supposed to bring in at least something to participate in our sustainable development.
Okay, everybody is supposed to participate to developing Cameroon. The HR factor, does it matter in governance today?
For me, it doesn't matter. For me, I don't think it matters. I think
so
that
even if you're 100 years, it doesn't matter. You still have to be there.
Well, for me, I'm not going to prevent, because you know, the International Convention of Human Rights as
forbids discrimination.
It forbids discrimination, so I don't think we are supposed to discriminate. The only thing we are supposed to make sure is that there should be alternance of power, because it will be an issue if somebody has to stay in power for 43 years or even more than even 10 years. It's an issue, and that's why, as a presidential candidate or aspirant, I have proposed that I'm going to bring down the term of office from 7 to 4 years, renewable once. So of course each president should just serve 2 terms of 4 years, that's 8 years, and you move and you give and you hand over to somebody else. So for me, the age factor is not really an issue. It becomes an issue where you have seen the same person for 20, 30, 40 years. That's where it becomes an issue. But now, if there is somebody who is 90 years old and who comes up with extraordinary ideas and is able to pull the people, then why not?
Why not? Are you worried with the excessive hate that we see on our social media space, and the attacks, regional, ethnic, and amongst other attacks, are growing by the day? These are your supporters. Yes, they support A or they support B or C. They are involved in this. Are you people not also contributing in mobilizing this very negative energy, if either for 1 or 2 political reasons?
Well, you know, the issue of hate in Cameroon is something that has actually been also put in place by the colonial master. I will give simple reasons. When they left, they favored certain tribes. And as I earlier on said, your boy said that in the contract which was being proposed to him, his own tribes people were supposed to be favored to the detriment of others. So, because he refused, another person took advantage of the particular agreement and also started favoring people of his own tribe. So you realize that it's still the colonial master that has put in place that system where we as Cameroonians, we don't see ourselves as one. And it goes far as seeing certain tribes calling themselves people. Like today you hear the Bassa people, you hear the Bamileke people, you hear the Mankol people, you hear the Bangwa people, you hear the Bamileke people. It's a problem because our constitution only recognizes one people, and that's the people of Cameroon. But today we have gotten into that division where people have tribalized the whole political system in such a way that tribes now are working to conquer others. And that's why you see automatically there's that conflict, because in certain tribes' mindset is that we are going to conquer to have more power so that we can rule. And those are the things that have actually slowed down economic development in Cameroon. And that's simply because you realize that two sets of people from different ethnic groups will find it difficult to work together. He will prefer to work it with his brother from the village than working with another person. And automatically that reduces our potential. So what I would like to say is that the hate which we have today was being instrumentalized by the colonial master and also by the leadership of today, because when you also look at certain services, public services, institutions, you realize that we only have a certain set of people there. You look at the police, the gendarmerie, you realize that we have only a certain tribe of people who are there. In fact, certain institutions are meant for certain tribes. And those are the things that are actually fueling the hate which we have today.
We may have most persons from a particular tribe, not essentially people from that tribe then.
No, yeah, most. That's what I'm saying, most. When I say that means in majority, if you have already a majority in that place, then there is a problem, because it's not supposed to be so. Considering the fact that meritocracy is an issue, and we know that tribalism is highly practiced in Cameroon today. So those are the things that have been fueling the hate speeches. Now, we also have, as you earlier on said, we have politicians that are also participating in fueling these things, in the sense that they have not condemned all these acts of hatred being perpetrated. Like, for example, I've seen a lot on TikTok where certain militants of the MRC attack others. I know. Go, let's exactly. Yeah. But what I'm just trying to say that our politicians have not helped to calm the situation down, because they have not stood up uprightly to condemn all of those acts. And I, for one, on my Facebook page, have condemned those things, to say that no, it's not about people, it's about the ideas. Now, it's true that there are certain politicians who today we cannot hold them credible, because they have been playing back and forward. Today they are with the regime, tomorrow they say they are against the regime. And while they were with the regime, Cameroonians were suffering, and they never complained and they never condemned. Now, today they have taken a different position. So we are supposed to condemn all of those things, because if we want to build a new Cameroon today, we need politicians that are constant, that are focused, that know what they want, and that can be able to propose what is necessary for sustainable development. But unfortunately, what we have today in Cameroon are politicians that are just interested in their stomachs and what they can gain. And that's why you see a politician who leave from one party to the next and find himself at the end of the day in another. So those are things that we are condemning. It's true that it can spark up some sort of hatred type of a thing, but then we have to speak the truth for Cameroonians, because we are in an electoral year, and Cameroonians must know those who they want to vote. It's not just about getting up one day and saying you want to be president, but you must have the required values to be able to stand as an independent individual that will safeguard the interests of Cameroonians.
You say you're going to ban alcohol. You've enumerated so many consequences of consuming alcohol, especially in excess. And what about the church? Do you have a plan for the church in Cameroon? Are you concerned about it?
Of course, I am concerned about I will not call it the church. I'll call it the right to believe,
Okay.
and the right to religion, which of course is one of those major rights that are being provided by the the Convention, International Declaration of Human Rights of 1948. And we are going to realize today that in Cameroon, the laws governing religious associations of 1990 are not really being respected in Cameroon today, and the reasons are simple. The reasons are the law actually provides that for a particular body to carry out religious activities, they must obtain an authorization from the President of the Republic, and through the advice of the Minister of Territorial Administration. So that means that each time you want to maybe open a church or you want to carry out a religious activity, you must obtain that authorization from the President of the Republic. Now, we know that one of the major issues we have in Cameroon today with our governance system is administrative slowness. So I met a pastor in KHUMBAH, I think that's a few months ago in January, who told me that he had dropped his application since 2004. Until date, he has not yet had an authorization. So these are things which we need to put in order to make sure that each and everyone can express his religious rights. Now, another issue is that we must also agree that so many churches today have committed a lot of acts that are not worthy of people who believe in God, or people who are supposed to be those who express divine attitude. And that would therefore go to what I'll call controlling churches, controlling their activities. And it's rather sad today that we are seeing many pastors today manipulate the people, who actually give them a lot of money, they become rich, and they use it for their own self-interest instead of using it for the development of our nation and also the development of their church, or even assist their church members. So there will be a lot of control that will be done, and I think that each and every church will have a serious responsibility and role to play in the society. And I think that I'll have a discussion with the pastors and the priests, with also the imams, so that they should play their role actively in the development of our country, because we have seen today that most of what is being put in place by our churches, even be it the Catholic Church, many people contributing left and right, but at the end of the day, the money is not used actually to serve the interests of each and every church member and Cameroonians. Then we must put in place a good mechanism. Let's take, for example, the construction of boarding schools, where you have very maybe poor church members who are contributing every time for the church to build those schools, but yet their children cannot access to those things. So those are the type of things, discrimination which happens today in our society, and particularly related to religious activities, that actually so slows down development. So those are the things that I'm planning to regulate, control, to make sure that the church actually plays its role as the Bible requires and as the Quran requires for the development of our nation.
Since you're raising the issue of accessibility to schools, are you also concerned with the way school systems operate in Cameroon, where we actually do not know how fees are determined for specific schools?
Yeah, of course, that's a serious problem, and that just goes to show that nothing is being controlled in Cameroon, nothing is being regulated, and we can see how schools sprout like mushrooms left and right in Cameroon, because it has become a serious business, and the ministries of education, be it primary, secondary, or higher education, have been granting authorizations to each and every one based on I don't know which criterias, and you see schools sprouting left and right. Now, not only talking about the issues of fees, which are not being regulated, but you even realize that in certain schools, huge sums of money are being paid, and teachers are not even paid their salaries. So that's one of the things that is extremely striking, and it's a shame, because you cannot be receiving salaries which we don't even know how you fix the salaries, and at the end of the day, even the teachers who are even there to teach the students, you don't pay them. I had a case a few weeks ago where teachers of a certain primary and secondary school were forced to retain the results, the report cards of their pupils, simply because the school did not pay them, and this is a very big school. So these are the things that we are actually, and that we're actually complaining today, and that teachers are also complaining today, that need to be resolved. And one of the ways I've planned to do it is first of all, using a communist approach in our educative system. The communist approach in our educative system is all about making sure that the right to education is accessible to each and every Cameroonian, and make sure that that the type of education, be it in quality and quantity, should be received by each and every Cameroonian wherever he finds his or herself. And that's also because we lack infrastructure in our educative system. We lack, we don't pay our good working conditions. We don't pay our teachers very well. So the approach is using that communist system to make sure that education, or the right to education, will be actually experienced by each and every Cameroonian child in the same way. So there will not be that discrimination between a child who is in the far north region or in the northern region of Cameroon and those who are maybe in Douala. So it's first of all to create that balance. And to create that balance, it means that most of our schools in the community system, particularly the private schools will be absorbed into what I'll call the communist sector, because there is no way we'll be able to make sure that teachers have the same wage like those in the public sector if the state itself does not help them. Because as you earlier on said, even though fees, we don't know how they are being regulated or they are being chosen, at the same time there are many schools that don't have enough resources, and there are many teachers that are working for free. So the only way to create that balance is that the government must step in. So for me, my idea about it is that the government should absorb every teacher, and in that way the government will be able to provide a reasonable salary to everybody equally, and that will permit us to be able to provide the same type of education to each and every Cameroonian child.
Okay, each child should have the same opportunity. Good evening, Mr. Kum. I'm Kingsley watching from Bamenda. I don't know, can you just take down some points which are going to be raised?
Yeah, I think I can.
I want to read some messages.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Kum. I'm Kingsley watching from Bamenda. Please ask Dr. ASONG how he intends to balance up the economy, because beer is a major revenue generating business within Cameroon. Okay. This one says, please, let's give him the chance to bring us to a place of honey and milk. Mr. ASONG Michael is hitting the right points. Okay, good evening, Mr. Liu. Tell our president to be that alcohol cannot be banned, but the consumption should rather be regulated based on age and number of bottles to be consumed per day. It's a good idea, and I support him on that part. Mr. ASONG is a great personality with a great vision. Let's rally behind him. Hopefully, he shouldn't be overtaken by the black man's bad spirit of wanting to hold on to power. Tambe is writing from KHUMBAH. Hello, Mr. Liu. Good evening. The program on TV this evening with you is wonderful, with you and your guest, our own future President ASONG. It is true that he says, but unfortunately for Cameroonians, no one needs the truth, which is very easy established. Long live ASONG. This is Johnny Anise writing from Boya. This one is too long. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm Tala talking from Bonaberi, Douala. I want to ask Dr. Barrister ASONG that if he's the president today, if he's going to encourage Forex, like encourage our youths to trade Forex, is he going to ban it also? Good evening to you in the studio, especially my presidential candidate. Your thoughts are wonderful and very good for a country with the vision of a great change. Courage, and may God see you through. Chia Gaspar is writing from Marwa. This one says, I think I love Mr. Asong's vision. His vision to ban beer in the country sounds convincing. Agwebi is watching from Simbok in Yaoundé. Good evening, says, I'm Elvis Nya, writing from Limbe. Mr. Liu, this is who we want as a leader that can lead us to the limelight of this nation. Thank you. Good evening to you in the studio. I'm Gafansi Galoff, watching the program in Boya. I really love this man's ambition. He has excellent ideas to run the country, but I hope he is not doing all this just to be known, because we don't need people who are looking for ways to be known. We need change. I have registered and I don't still know who to vote. Yes, let me take one last here. I appreciate the opportunity to engage with the program featuring Dr. Asong. However, I must emphasize that his focus on social issues seems to overshadow the critical challenges and gaps within our current system that requires urgent attention. It is essential for him to present a clear and detailed blueprint of his plans. While I admire his courage and enthusiasm, we need to see a more comprehensive approach that addresses these key concerns. I will definitely vote for him. Best regards. Flora is writing from Abuya. But this is not campaign time, Flora, so we cannot, they cannot present their political manifestos. Yes, come on. With those, you can answer.
So I think the first question is how do I balance the economy by eliminating beer? Now, the first thing I would like to say is that unfortunately we adopted the economic system of the colonial master. Now, our colonial master is France. Now, France is a country whose economic system is based on tax, because it does not have natural resources. So what it simply does is that it raises revenue for its activities and every other issue through taxes. And that's why when you read the French finance system, you realize that taxes, in fact, their revenue is about 60% of their GDP. And all of that comes from taxes. Now, there is a problem, because when you come to Cameroon, Cameroon is not supposed to have that type of economic system, an economic system which is based on taxes. That is a system that is based on a country that practically produces nothing, that does not have natural resources, you see. So in Cameroon, what I am proposing is that we are shifting from a tax-based economic system to a production economic system. What do I mean by a production economic system? It's a system where we will be making use of our natural resources, exploiting them, extracting them, transforming them, and now making sure that they are of best qualities so that we can sell them at the international market and generate enough revenue for us that will help us to boost our GDP, and that will also help us to be able to use those resources and that revenue to be able to finance each and every activity. And that's why you're going to realize that I am always insisting on the term independence. I'm always insisting on the term independence. Can you imagine that in Cameroon today, for over, I think, when Sonara was created, for over 25 years, we did not know where the revenue of Sonara was going to. It's only a few decades ago that it was being included in the national budget. So that's a problem. It just goes to show what I'm trying to explain from the very start, that we are not independent. We are not in control of our natural resources. We had colonial accords which were being signed by our former president Amadou Ahidjo that expired in 2020, and fortunately enough, President Biya, in quotes, as from what we hear, did not renew them. And even though he did not renew them, but we know that there are other practices going on, because we are seeing certain exploitations of certain natural resources being handed to individuals. And that's why I'm saying that I want to switch from capitalism to communism, because today we have a capitalist system which is not helping us, because it is for a few that have all the revenue and are using it for the benefit of their family. Whereas I want something that is a government that will own, and that all the resources and revenue will come back to the state. Now, this goes now in the direction to where beer will contribute least, if consumed, to our economy than us putting it away. So for many Cameroonians, they believe that alcohol production in Cameroon is generating a lot of revenue for the state. Now, I'll give you a simple example. Boisson du Cameroon is not owned by Cameroon. It's a French company. Now, the French company will have to pay taxes from the revenue which they generate. Now, how much would they pay as taxes? It's about 20%. Then the rest of it, where does it go to? It goes back to their country. It goes back to the people. Maybe after, from their revenue, that means after settling all their employees and the rest they'll pay 20% tax, and the rest will go back to their country. Now, let's take for example that we were the ones having the Boisson du Cameroon. It means that all the revenue will come back to us. But now what I'm trying to make you understand is that last year we spent almost 2,000 billion francs CFA just for alcohol. Do you know what 2,000 billion francs CFA can do to an economy? Do you know the types of projects we can implement, be it in the sector of agriculture, be it in the sector of technology and different services, be it in the sector of health, be it in the sector of energy? We can implement a lot of projects. Let me just give a simple example. For us to construct and renovate, construct a new refinery and renovate the Sonara refinery, for it to be able to produce us finished products like petrol, because we don't produce petrol. We practically extract the crude oil, send it to our colonial master, he refines it before they send it back to us.
We buy light crude and refine. Yeah.
So it's something like that. So just to say that with 400 billion francs CFA, we can be able to construct a new refinery that will be able to provide us, produce and meet up with our needs, and we can be able to sell it in Cameroon at 350 francs for each and every Cameroonian, and we'll still make again out of it. So, but we have spent 2,000 billion on alcohol. So what I'm trying to say is that if we consider what we are spending on alcohol, we divert it to other things. We say that, okay, we can do a communist type of financing system where each and everyone chips in something to achieve a certain goal so that it will profit the whole nation. Then we are going to lift up this country in no second, in no time. Now, if we're only considering the taxes which the government benefits, okay, but that's nothing. Because of that, really
can you go through?
Yeah. So I think the second question was about encouraging forex. Now, forex is simply foreign exchange. For me to encourage forex, it means I need to build a very good economy, because exchange is all about what we are exporting and what we are importing. Now, we have a system where we practically import more than we export. So that's the reason why we always find ourselves in a deficit balance of payment, because for us to have a positive balance of payment, our imports should be greater than our exports. So I cannot discourage forex, because I need forex, foreign exchange, to be able to grow my economy. Now, the problem here is not about the forex. The problem here is about us Cameroonians. What are we producing that we can make use of the forex system as exchange system to be able to gain from the international market? And that's why I want to put in place an economic system that will be based on production and making sure that there will be quality control. It's not only about producing, but it's about producing goods and services that can meet up with international standards and permit those goods and services to be sold in the international market, and that's what is going to grow our economy. Of course, if it grows our economy, then we shall need the forex system to be able to balance our payments, and also make sure that if we have our own economy, then the forex system will work perfectly well. And that's why the United States today is the #1 country where foreign exchange is being practiced as even a profession, and that's because they are very, very productive. So if we don't have a productive system, then the system will be a sham. So of course it's something I'm going to encourage, but I'm just trying to let you know that we shall be more focused on our economy, and we have to work together to build it. If we build it, then certainly the forex system will be very good for us. So I think the last thing was about I think the lady was talking about, I seem to be more focused on social aspects and the rest. But the truth is that we must understand the position in which we find ourselves today in Cameroon. We are going to realize that over 70% of the population is poor. We have bad roads. We have orphans everywhere, from the Anglophone crisis, from insecurity in the northern provinces. We have unemployment. We have high cost of living. So all those things have a social aspect. And you know, as a leader, when you take over power, building a productive economy, which will actually certainly increase employment, is not something that you can do in a space of days. It's progressive, because you need resources, so you will start somewhere and progressively get somewhere. But as a leader, you must make sure that the basic needs which Cameroonians need on a daily basis should be provided. They should be able to have water, they should be able to have light, constant light, they should be able to have good roads, they should be able to have access to health care, they should be able to have a clean environment, they should be able to have access to education. So that's why it might look like I'm focused more on those things, but my goal is, first of all, help Cameroonians feel the relief. And when they are going to feel the relief, together we are going to build the other sectors easily. And I think that I've laid a lot of emphasis, might be on this show today. We did not lay much emphasis on governance, because we spoke about it last time, which is very important.
Yes, somebody is asking that you raised an issue about the driving school.
Yes.
That has gone operational in the University of Buea. You were not so happy with it, and you made so many explanations, which, according to the writer, many persons did not understand. Can we come back to that?
Of course. I think a few months ago, the University of Buea actually launched, I don't know, a service or a department to train
professional driving school.
A professional driving school. And for me,
I don't know whether it's professional, international, something. Yeah.
Well, anyway, a driving school. Yeah. But for me, I found that there was an issue, because the role of the University of Buea is to educate Cameroonians in such a way that they can participate in sustainable the development of our country. That's the first goal. That's the first thing. Now, what is the role of a driving school at the university? What benefit does it bring to Cameroonians or students who are actually studying in that university? And we will realize that we have the impression that they are even deviating from what is supposed to be done, considering the fact that there are so many loopholes concerning administrative activities and the rest, and also due to the fact that there are partnerships which are lacking, because that driving school was being created with a partnership of, I don't know which foreign country was being involved with the type of equipment they brought in. Now the question is, could this partnership not help in other appropriate disciplines that could boost our development in Cameroon? For example, in health, for example, in engineering, for example, in law, and many other things. And that's why I said they are missing the mark, because we all know that in Cameroon today there are institutions that are already playing that role. Private institutions that have actually put in place driving schools to play that role. So why is the University of Buea trying to infringe into the activities of other institutions. Now the question is, are those institutions carrying out, are they not training Cameroonian citizens appropriately? Now, I don't think that is an issue, because somebody once raised the question that there are a lot of accidents in Buea today. And for me, I strongly believe that the amount of accidents we have in Buea today is because of the way the road was constructed. Now, when we look at the road from Mile 17 going up to Great Support, you realize that when that road was first created, there was a separation in the middle. But when President Biya came to Buea in 2011 to celebrate the 50th anniversary of our reunification, that separation in the middle was removed. It was removed, and that is what has been causing all the accidents. It's true, there's also reckless driving associated to it, but I strongly believe that if that particular separation was still there, those accidents wouldn't have taken place, because that would have been a preventive measure taken by the state to prevent drivers from using the other side of the road.
You went further to say universities are supposed to be focused on more meaningful aspects and not necessarily on training people how to drive. Is it not also very essential to know how to drive? To drive well?
Yeah, it's essential to know how to drive, but we should know that how many students leave the university and get employed to the point where they have jobs that they can be able to purchase cars. That's the question. We are not in Europe, where every student that leaves school will have a job, and even when they have a job, they'll be able to get a car immediately. So in one way or the other, I got scared. Is University of Buea trying to prepare its students to become future taxi drivers or bike riders? Yeah, and you know that's
I'm not sure the driving school is essentially for students. Maybe it is open to the public,
and even if it is open to the public, I think that there are other people carrying out those activities. They should be more focused on educating the people on the different things to develop the country. So how would the driving develop the country then? So it means that what they are trying to tell us is that they want to train drivers, professional drivers, which for me, I think that it's out of topic. They should focus on what they are supposed to do and let others also do other things.
What is your net assessment of our higher education system in Cameroon, universities and private higher education?
For me, I would like to say that our educative system is a system that is practically based on delivering certificates to individuals, without any practical know-how or any skill. And that's a very serious problem, because we have so many certificate holders today, but we don't have professionals, and I think that that's where the state has failed. The educative system today has been designed to encourage youths to believe that what they just need to obtain is the certificate. So you realize that in most of our trainings, most youths or certificate holders will only read during the exam periods. Now, we don't have any mechanism to encourage internships. We don't have any mechanisms to encourage mentorship. We don't have any mechanism to encourage a setting where you have people who come and educate the children on what, or I'll call it orientation. We have lack of orientation to help students understand what is beneficial for them and what they need to do. We don't have the state itself working hand in hand with the students, explaining their vision to the students, so that the students should know that this is the direction we are trying to take and this is what they must be focused on. You realize that most of our educative system today has been focused more on arts subjects instead of science subjects, whereas a country cannot develop with arts subjects. A country will develop with mostly scientific subjects and technical trainings that are going to help to build infrastructure, build the necessary equipments and platforms necessary for us to express ourselves. So that's where the problem is. Now, what I want to bring new into the educative system is that it will be a system that will be focused focus on skills, aptitudes, and competencies. So I will have to change the whole examination criteria of a thing. So it will not be focused on you just having an end of year exams, but it will be focused on you 33% end of year exams, another 33% based on group and collective work, which would be very important because we realize today that Cameroonians find it very difficult to work collectively. And for a nation to grow, we need people to work hand in hand. And finally, we'll have individual work that will be focused on the individual expressing themselves and expressing the skills. Now, the teachers will have to make sure that each and everything which is taught in school should be something which practically can be used and demonstrated, so that while we are going to school, we actually grow with the knowledge that what we are learning in school, we are supposed to use it to develop our country. So that's what I'm going to bring new, and certainly by doing that, we'll be able to have more professionals in our societies than what we have today, who are certificate holders. And it's very sad to see that even those who are trained in professional schools will finish training without doing an internship, will finish training without any skills. So that is what we need to change today.
But today we have so many private higher education or higher education institutions or universities that are also providing, especially professional education, skills and knowledge. You think that they are not doing what the government or public schools are not doing?
I think they go both together. Be it public, be it private, is the same issue, because it's the state that puts in place the mechanism, or that puts in place the vision for everybody to follow. Now, if the state has built a system where it's focused on certificates, then everybody will just be focused on that. And that's why you see people today, Cameroonians, will tell you, oh, j'ai un doctorat, oh, I have a master's, oh, I have a first degree. But that's not what is important. On the market field, or on the job market, what they are looking for is, what can you do? Nobody cares about your certificate. Yes, your certificate will give you a plus in the sense that they'll say, okay, if you have a certificate, it means you have gone through a particular training. But they will need to see practically what you have learned, and that is where the issue is, because most are unable to put that in practice. And at the end of the day, it also participates in the high rates of unemployment, because when you have a skill, you will know how to create a job for yourself. You will know how to use it to generate revenue. But the system, as I earlier on said, is based on certificate, and everybody is waiting for the government to employ them, or they are waiting for a private institution to employ them. Now, the system should be able to help Cameroonians be more independent and to create something for themselves.
Now, you want the system to train people, but the parents also to some extent are responsible, because they choose where their children actually go to study. You are a member of Cameroon's judiciary because you're a barrister. Do you have the impression that a common Cameroonian has complete trust in you people, the lawyers? Do they trust the judicial apparatus in Cameroon's way?
Of course, they don't trust it. They don't trust it. When you speak to Cameroonians, they tell you, no, there's no justice in Cameroon. And of course, it goes in line with international classifications.
Do they trust you, the lawyers?
They don't. In fact, the whole justice system, be it the lawyers, the judges, the investigators, the court clerks, they trust nobody. They trust practically nobody. When they go to court, they just feel like, okay, we have to just take our problem somewhere, and we have to see how we will find our way through. So it's true, because when you look at the World Justice Index, Cameroon finds itself at the 134th position out of 140. So we are almost last. We are almost last. And it's still an issue of the system. It's still an issue of the system, because when you have a president of the republic who is the head of the higher judicial council, who is the boss of the judiciary. And when you go to courts, for example, at the appeal court in Douala and also the high court at Bonanjo, you realize that the picture of the president is in the court hall. Then you ask yourself the question that in whose name is justice really rendered? Yeah, is justice rendered in the name of the people, or justice is rendered in the name of the president of the republic or an individual? So that is one of the issues, because the president has enshrined all powers upon himself, and that's why I've made sure that there should be separation of powers. First, the president of the republic shouldn't be any longer the president of the higher judicial council, and also the president of the republic should not have the powers to appoint senators. That will permit him to stay as an executive, and also for him to be scared of the judiciary and of the legislative. And I also added that there will be two other organs that will be added onto it. That's the organ of national security and the military, and also the traditional organ that will be made up of chiefs. The role is to keep the president on check, because that is the role of separation of power, to control all the other units, and that will permit to reduce the powers of the president and permit other people to be more independent. So if we have an independent judiciary today, then at that moment judges will be able to carry out their duties appropriately, because they won't be under the pressure of the executive, because today the executive controls the judiciary. Now, another issue is that we have corruption. Corruption also is something that has not been fought, and I remember several decades ago Cameroon was first in terms of corruption in the world. And that just goes to show how the system today, the regime today, has failed in its role in ensuring that it tackles corruption. And I've certainly proposed how we could tackle corruption, first of all by digitalizing our services and our systems, particularly the justice system. We shouldn't work with papers. It will facilitate things and reduce administrative slowness. It will also permit that people could be able to check their cases, know when they'll have their cases, lawyers will be able to check their cases, know when they have their cases, and it will prevent them from bribing in one way or the other. Another thing will be to increase the number of judges. You can't have a judge that has about 100 cases a day. That cannot work. Every judge will increase the number of judges, increase the number of courtrooms, so that we could be able to reduce the number of cases judges have, and for them to permit them to carry out their job appropriately. Another thing is the training. ENAM is some sort of a colonial school designed for the elite that work according to the regime that is in place. And if we have a regime that does not respect the rule of law, we have a regime that is corrupt, then certainly even those who are trained there will be corrupt. So we need to change all of that. And I've even been thinking of dissolving ENAM, creating a separate school for judges, a separate school for prosecutors, and also a law school for lawyers. And I think that training to has a role to play, because if you have, for example, lawyers that have not gone through a law school, but that have only learned how to become lawyers by through practice on the field, then it's a problem. Because if you are in a system where the practice is unjust and is based on corruption, then of course the lawyer, he will only know corruption as his means of defense. So for us to be able to put an end to all of those things, we need to put in place a law school that is going to train lawyers, so that they should know how things are supposed to be done appropriately, and not obviously what they see seniors doing, because certainly what seniors do might not be the right thing. So that's why we must put in place a law school. By doing that, we'll be able to reduce the discrimination and the injustice in the justice sector. And the last thing will be to improve on the salaries of judges, improve on the salaries mostly of court clerks, and see how certainly lawyers who actually assist the state can get paid in one way or the other.
Okay. Now, when you watch the way musicians in Cameroon end their lives, most of them end up in pain, unable to take care of their basic health needs, as well as other sectors. Where is the problem?
Well, I think the problem is still around poor governance. because we have a system that has not taken into consideration the issues and the problems of each and every one. See, they are focused on a few things, a certain group of people, and the rest are being left to their own fate. Now, when we look at the case of musicians, we are going to realize from the few cases which we have seen today, the case of Prince Aimé, we've simply realized that there is always this issue between the manager and the artist, or the producer and the artist. And most of the time we realize that there is always some sort of disagreement at the end concerning money, concerning royalties and all the like. And I think that one of the ways to put an end to those type of issues between managers and artists is to make sure that there should be a special statute that is going to govern how that is going to govern the manager-artist relationship, making sure that the artists are being protected, just like what we have a labor code that actually protects the rights of the employee. Without that, we will have a lot of artists who will be exploited. So that's the first thing. Make sure that the artist is being given value and is being paid a considerable amount of money that goes with his or her work. Another issue will be to make sure that I'll put in place a mechanism for social insurance for artists based on what they produce, because one of the issues with certain artists is that sometimes they make a lot of money, but they don't manage it well, they squander it. So now, based on what an artist makes, the state will have a mechanism to control. For example, if you are an artist and you are registered as an artist, the state will make sure that you should have an account, and it is through that account that you'll be paid. So when you be paid through that account, the state will make sure that, okay, there's a certain amount of money that will be taken, where I will be put aside for your social insurance, so that when you get old, or when you can't express your skills any longer, or might be you're sick, the state will be able to give you something that can permit you to at least keep up with daily life. So I think it's about that, organizing that, and also investing a lot in the sector of music. We know other countries like the USA, like Nigeria, that are making a lot of money out of the sector of culture, music and arts. So I'll be investing a lot of that. I've seen so many artists that have complained about lack of infrastructure, about lack of appropriate training. And I think last time we have this artist Kosi, who organized a training, and he brought in several artists from Nigeria. And I think that's something I salute and I applaud. And this is what we need to do, so that those who actually want to carry out that type of profession, they should be able to have the necessary knowledge and the necessary skills, and that they should be well accompanied. So those are things that I'm planning to do, and I strongly believe that that sector can be used to develop our country too, and our artists should be focused on that, creating songs and music that can actually give more value and promote our country. So if we are able to do that, then we can use that sector to promote our culture, promote our different activities, and certainly develop our country.
Now, many persons are confused. You want to ban, you want to redesign our system of education, you want to ban alcohol, a sector where many people think brings so much revenue to Cameroon.
Yeah.
Where is your focus going to be, or where should the focus of Cameroon be as far as revenue, the raising of revenue is concerned?
Yeah, as I earlier on said, my economic policy is based on production and exploitation of our natural resources. Now, that is the means through which I'm planning to raise revenue.
Okay,
so let me go deep. As natural resources, what do we have? In terms of energy resources, we have crude oil, we have gas. In terms of mines, we have cobalt, we have lithium, we have gold, we even have diamond and many other precious materials. In terms of agriculture, we have almost, I think, 1 million hectares of land, arable land, which we can use to invest in agriculture. So now the focus is investing in things that we have potential. So I won't immediately be focused on services, because we have not yet had an educative system that has permitted us to have the type of services which we need, and that's why I have to work on that educative system to orientate our nation and our youth towards production. Now the advantage we have is that we have a lot of natural resources. We have a thick forest, which are being exploited today by certain individuals who don't even know who is exploiting it. We don't even know where the revenues are going to. We have crude oil, we don't know how it is being managed. We have gas, we have other natural resources. So that is where my focus will be, and that's why you see I am insisting a lot on our total independence, because these things are being controlled by certain individuals. So many people today in Cameroon might think that there is no money, but there is a lot of money in Cameroon. The sums are unimaginable. The only problem is we have a few group of people who are enjoying it all, and they call it the national cake. You know, the cake can never get to everybody. Even in a party, not everybody is going to eat the cake. So that is how they call it, because they have shared the country, shared the natural resources amongst them and the colonial masters who are exploiting everything. So my goal now is to create a different type of economic system that will be based on exploitation and transformation. And to do that, I need strong partnerships, which I have put as a principle, first of all, to relate with my African brothers and sisters. African countries, there are so many of them, which we can sit down together and see how we can build ourselves. And that goes in line with the second paragraph of our preamble of the Constitution, that provides that we as Cameroonians, we aspire for an African state, and that we are supposed to work with other African states in all solidarity, furthering our bonds. So that's the first thing. Now we also have other external partners, and that's where I'm applying the principle of neutrality, because you know, today with the West and the East, we have so many people, even Africans, that are choosing sides. Like look at Israel, Iran, we have Africans choosing Iran, we have others choosing Israel. But we don't need that, because as an African continent, we have our own problems, and we have to provide our own solutions to our problems. Now, with the rest of the world, we have to keep the principle of neutrality, knowing fully well that we can engage in any transaction with any other foreign state, provided our interests are being safeguarded. So looking towards working with China, which we're already doing now, with Russia, with US, certainly we are going to keep certain countries away, because they have done us a lot of harm, like France. Okay.
Did you say you're moving the capital to the Adamawa? Because somebody has been insisting. Please ask him, why is he moving the capital to Adamawa?
Yeah, of course. I spoke about moving the capital to Adamawa for several reasons. Now, the first reason is that we have an issue with insecurity. And you know, insecurity is an issue where you need to, for you to resolve it appropriately, your presence must be felt and needed. That's the first thing. Bringing the capital to Adamawa would increase security in the Adamawa and automatically in the other northern regions. That's how I look at it, first of all. Now, the second thing is that you realize that Yaoundé is not really at the center of our country. So we have to reorientate the capital to transfer the capital to a place where can really represent the center, that will really look like the center of our country. And I think that by putting it somewhere in Adamawa or Gaoundéré, which is close to the central region, then we will also be at that point where we are somehow at the center of Cameroon. And knowing fully well that another thing too is that when the capital moves from one place to another, automatically it brings development. We must know that our northern regions have been abandoned in terms of everything. They are lacking. They are the last in Cameroon. In terms of infrastructure, they are lacking the roads, all those things they are lacking. Health-wise, education. We have schools with no infrastructure, children having lessons outdoor. So that would be the goal, to bring the administration towards those areas which are disfavored or marginalized. And I think that Cameroon will not be the first place to do that. It was being done in Nigeria, where the capital left from Calabar. It later on went to Lagos, and then they took it to Abuja. So I think that every president might rethink things like that, and is going to permit us to be able to harmonize development in Cameroon, so that nobody should be disfavored. So that's one of the main reasons. Those are the main reasons why I decided to talk about moving the capital to the Adamawa region. Let us not only feel that power is for some certain group of people.
Okay, I am Nifambe from Boya. Please let our brother throw a little more light about the number of ministers he thinks we need.
Yeah, I think we don't need more than 20 ministers in Cameroon. We don't need more than 20 ministers in Cameroon, and I provided that there must be a principle that will be applied. We must have at least a 33 representation of women, and we must have at least a 20% representation of youths, that's from 21 to 35 years, and we must have a 2% representation of handicaps in every government organ and institution. But we will not be having more than 20 ministers.
Okay. Mr. Leo, please give Barrister my number for more information. There are things I cannot say on air. Please let him call me. Julius from Limbe, Dr. Barrister ASONG have good points, and we are praying for him. Elected, those points will be realized. Okay. We have to end at this juncture. Dr. Barrister, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kum. Thank you also to all our listeners. Please, I wish you go get your voters card, because registrations are still going on, and they will certainly be closed maybe in a few weeks. So please get your voters card. We are the change we desire, and we must work hand in hand to bring it this year. This is the only opportunity that we might have, and I think that if we all focus on what is important, which is the elections of this year, then certainly we shall be able to make change in October and take our country to higher heights.
We want to thank you all for watching. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.